What's going on, guys? Welcome back to LOI TV. Today we are joined by Gary Shaw of Bray Wanderers. Gary, really appreciate joining us on the show today. How are you keeping?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the chat.
So, Gary, how has pre-season been?
Yeah, look, pre-season is, I suppose, the usual. It's not saying you're going through the motions, but you're expecting the hard run and the games where you're chopping and changing squads. You might play 60 and then 30 and that kind of stuff. It's the usual kind. But I think since I first started in the league 10, 11 years ago, I suppose that kind of old school of leaving the balls at home for the first 2 weeks of pre-season is gone, and managers are adapting to the way the game is moving. And once you get everyone back onto the pitch, it's the balls are out and you can adapt training where you can do disguise running with footballs and all. But managers, that kind of old school hardcore running is out the window, because obviously there's a lot more science out there that it's a big injury risk and that kind of stuff. So look, pre-season kind of is a lot easier than it was. You will do the hard graft and that kind of stuff, but not as much as it used to be. But so far so good. We've had 3 games and we lost last night and we drew our previous 2. But good to get the minutes into their legs and just get back out there playing again. Really is the main thing.
You were really unlucky last year with the first division and you only lost out by promotion by a point. Reflecting on last year, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, look, really huge opportunity missed. Going into the last 2 games of the season, we had Galway and Athlone, and basically, it was in our hands. You win those 2 games and you win the league, and it's as simple as that. There's no other way to it. And just the Galway game got away from us. We just didn't get over the line, and they went up and scored the last kick of the game, which took it completely out of our hands then, and we would have had a decent chance of still winning it going into the last game, but the loss really made it difficult for us. And look, fair play to Drogheda, they hung in there right to the very end. And look, a league table never lies. It's the team that's at top at the end of the season, and that's it. We like I said, we had it in our hands, and we suppose we threw it away. But it was a really good season. We done really well. We had a good group of players. A mix of youth and a bit of experience, and probably a bit more experience might have got us over the line. But look, you have your bit of luck along the way. So does everyone else, and your own misfortunes and stuff. But it was one that I'll just put down as an opportunity missed, because it was in our hands with 2 games to go.
Then obviously on a personal level, last season you scored seven goals in a half season, which is a very good return. You must have been very pleased with your performances.
Yeah, no, I was happy. Look, I was excited about going to Bray, and look, I knew a good few of the players. I worked with Gary Cronin at Longford for 4 years, so he had tried to sign me a couple of years previous. I went a different way at the time, and I always said stay in touch if he was the manager there still, and I felt that I was making that transition into, I suppose, part-time football. And if he was still there, I told him I'd love to be a part of his, because I got on really well with him. He's a young manager who's going to do well in the game. And look, on a personal level, I was happy to score a few goals. Obviously, it was a mad season, the usual thing was, with COVID and all. But I was happy to score goals, contribute to the team, and I suppose in the last couple of years, I suppose being more experienced head now, because a lot of the lads now coming through will be a lot older than I'm still 28, but they're teenagers coming through, and I like to use my experience to help them, make them better players and develop different habits and whatever. But look, on a personal level, I'm still trying to set my own goals and targets, and score as many goals as I can. I will claim another goal that took one off me for an own goal, but I'll never a striker will never let a defender take an own goal. I'll always claim that goal.
Absolutely.
So you have plenty of new signings in Stephen Kinsley, Conor Clifford, Darren Craven, Mark Byrne and Brandon Kavanagh, just to name a few. How have they settled in, and do you feel this squad has got a lot stronger now for the new season?
Yeah, obviously, look, within your circle, the lads that have left before kind of a few new signs have come in, so you're kind of trying to pinpoint where you think the manager needs to strengthen in your own head, and I think he's done that very well. We've lost a good few players to different clubs, but I think he's brought in some very experienced, very technically good players that we badly needed. I'd spoken to Conor Clifford last year, just to name one, and I tried to get him to come in, but he went to Derry, and look, that was just his own personal decision. And once the season kind of ended for them, I got onto him again straight away, because I think, that midfield area is a really important, was a really important position for us last year. I think that we really needed that real engine in midfield, kind of, that can spray passes around. And Conor, I thought, was an ideal fit. Obviously, played with him at Pats, and I know, the career he's had. He's such a technically good player. So it was great that Gary could get him in. And then, like the other players you've mentioned, like Stephen Kinsella, he just needs to get now a run of games under. He's obviously struggled with injury, but technically unbelievable. Like, you can see the stuff he does in training, that he can be a serious asset to any team. So as long as he stays injury free, then we have a real talent there.
Yeah.
And then Darren coming in from Malahide, big lad, strong engine, and he can get up and down the pitch, and he's versatile as well. So some really experienced players coming in. Mark Byrne, again, another one you mentioned. Just a couple of hundred games in league, Championship League One. So just real valuable assets to the team, and can only strengthen us going forward. And I think that's what we needed. We needed that experience, because a lot of younger lads have learned a lot from what happened last season, and that will stand to all them. So they're a year better, a year more experienced in that kind of environment. So look, I think with the mix we have now this year is it's going to be, just looking at all the teams, it's going to be very competitive.
Yeah, just actually, that's my next question. Really, it's going to be such a competitive first division. As fans, we're so excited for it just to start off at this stage. Just looking at the teams: Shells, Cork, Galway, yourselves, all huge clubs down there. Are you looking forward to the challenge that waits?
Yeah, I think, like, just even from last year, like, you see the players that Shells have brought in, the players Galway have brought in. Cork will always be. I know they've obviously kind of fallen off a cliff, but like they've declined rapidly in the last couple of years. But still a massive club that have a huge caption area that they will bring in good players and have done. So it's going to be seriously competitive, and I think the key is that first series of games, you've got to target that and get as many wins as you can early on, because I don't think you can afford to slip up early with this season. Obviously, it's going to be a full season this year. All going well, obviously, but I think if you kind of lose ground early on, it's going to be tough to get back, because there will be a few, like the likes of Treaty. You don't know what they're going to be like. They obviously have predominantly Munster Senior League players, I assume, a few League of Ireland, ex-League of Ireland players, but I think a strong start is a must with this first division, because no matter who you play, it's always a tough game, no matter who it is. Found that out last season. It doesn't matter if you're going down to, no disrespect to the likes of Wexford, who finished down the bottom last season. Like, they're a tough side. They're young, energetic kids, but it's always a tough game. So yeah, we need to target a good start and make sure that we're thereabouts in the first series of games.
Yeah, even looking at Athlone as well, they've strengthened as well. Like, there's a lot of teams that are looking very, very strong coming to the new year. Just touching on another one of the signings, kind of Brandon Kavanagh was one that stood out for me, moving on loan from Shamrock Rovers, of course. And there's a bit of a Shamrock Rovers contingent building at Bray with yourself, like a former Shamrock Rovers contingent, yourself, Sean Callan, Keane Clark. Do you feel like that played a factor in Rovers, and Brandon himself maybe feeling like Bray was the best place for his development, and like kind of familiar faces and surroundings with him?
Yeah, like, look, Brandon obviously is a technically very good player, and it's just how strong the Rovers midfield is that he needs to look at it realistically and say, will he play this season? And he's at an age now where he needs to make that decision himself, and probably not going to play as much as he'd like to. Brandon needs games, and obviously the B team, the Shamrock Rovers B team, or Shamrock Rovers 2, they that was a great help for him. But I think he needs to be up there challenging, because he's so good, and I think it's a credit to himself that he's made that decision to come to Bray, that he knows they'll be challenging, he knows they'll be up there, and he's only going to test himself, and he's only going to get better from it. And these loan moves can be so beneficial to younger players. Brandon's already shown what he can do in training, what he can do in games. He's a real good ability now. He just needs to put his head down and work hard, because he's going to be a massive player for us.
Yeah, for sure. Laura, if you finish off with a few quick fire questions.
Go on, yeah, work away.
So the first one we have for you, your favourite player when you were growing up?
David Beckham.
David Beckham. Which I was thinking a striker now, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it would have been, if I had to go a striker, it would have been Van Nistelrooy. But Beckham,
yeah.
I don't know what it was with Beckham. We just used to always love just Beckham. That was it. They even had a bleeding poster on the wall of him.
Yeah, some player, in fairness. Do you have any pre-match routines or superstitions?
You know what? I consciously try not to,
Really?
because I just think if I get something into my head that I have to do,
Yeah, yeah,
and then if I sometimes forget to do it or whatever it might be, I think my head would be gone. So
yeah.
I constantly try not to. I constantly, like, this kind of stuff with the left sock or left boot, like that's
Yeah, we hear that all the time.
none of that kind of stuff. I constantly try to stay away from superstitions. Um, the one thing I do have, and I'm not giving away any secrets here. If I'm taking a penalty, I have
Yeah.
a thing I do in the car. I'll flip a coin, and
Oh wow.
that's where I go.
So
And
either side, like.
I have a certain way of how I decide where I go with the penalty. So I
Oh
don't
wow.
have so like, basically, because goalkeepers try and study where people
Yeah,
go. I want to make it as random as possible, and
yeah.
I just found that randomness of it. I've done it when I was growing up as a kid. Do it now.
That's class. That's
And
gas.
I'll flip a coin, and I'll flip at a certain, I won't tell you, I'll flip at a certain number of times, and whatever way it comes out in a pattern, that's where I know I'll go. And
That's gas.
that's the only thing.
So you can't be annoyed at yourself if it's saved or anything. You can't be annoyed at yourself because it's the coin.
I know when I go into a panel, I know where I'm going, and that's it. It's been
That's it.
decided. And a keeper can study all he wants, but it's no use.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless he was in the car with me looking over my shoulder.
Yeah. That's so funny. Who's the best player you've played with yourself?
Um, I played in a really good Irish under-19 squad, so I had the likes of Shane Duffy, Johnny Egan, Jeff Hendrick. At that
Wow.
age, Robbie Brady was ridiculous. He was he was at Man United, and he was, the big thing coming from this country. So I'll have to say him, and he was just technically unbelievable. And it was a player that even when I was coming through a Kenny Cup when I was 13, like, we all kind of looked, because I was playing with Kildare, so like we were just a bunch of GA players.
Yeah.
And down to Kenny Cup, and we saw these DDSL players being like, geez, these lads were going on to play for United and all this kind of stuff. So just to play with him was brilliant, and he's obviously gone on to do unbelievable things. So I'd have to say him. Just playing with him, he was technically ridiculous.
Yeah, because I think Kevin's team was like him and Hendrick and stuff in it, wasn't it? I think Goodman, such
Yeah,
a
their
good team.
Kevin's team was outrageous, and they won
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
at that age. But yeah, just when I got to play with him finally, it was you could just see it firsthand. Obviously, it's how good he actually was.
Yeah, for sure. The hardest opponent you've come across?
Hardest opponent. Who would be the hardest opponent? I got asked this before, actually. When I first started out in the league, I think it was my first season with Bray, I played against Brian Shelley. He was a centre back at Bowes at the time, and I always hate playing against centre backs that are fast.
Yeah.
And especially when I was 18, starting with Bray, I was probably my quickest, young, whatever. And Brian Shelley was so fast, and I hated it. And he was so hard to play against because I couldn't run him in behind. He was just such a good player and built strong. So I'd have to say him. I remember getting a good lesson from him,
Yeah.
and how to adapt my game from playing against him, because of how kind of good he was physically and just even how fast he was. So I'm going to say Brian Shelley.
Yeah. Your favourite goal you'd scored?
Europa League game against Starnan with Rovers. We won 1-0. Between that one and scoring in the Dublin Derby in Tala, that was also good. But I have to say, scoring in Europa League.
Yeah, definitely.
It was my second season with Rovers, and just to, I suppose, score that winner was just a brilliant thing for me. Just loved every minute of it, especially over there.
I'd say those European nights are just something else, are they?
Yeah, like we played them then, the away or the home leg, and bet them, just a different feel about it. Just European games. Had a bad experience my first year against a Finnish team, and then just that one. And then we played Malada Boleslav in the next round, who subsequently bet us. But even just the experience of playing in bigger stadiums against foreign teams, it's just such a good experience. Can't beat it.
Yeah, for sure. And it might actually be kind of an answer to this question, but the final one for you is your best moment in football.
Yeah, I suppose I'd say, like, obviously that European game, but I suppose playing for Ireland under 19s was also a brilliant honour. You just even your family are so proud of you, like, and especially now that I've a son, Max he's 4 now, and just even kind of thinking if you saw him going to play for Ireland, even if it was underage, how proud you'd be of him.
Absolutely.
And I kind of think that about my own dad, you can just imagine. So that would probably be my best moment. Obviously winning the league at Longford is another big one. Just winning the league was a great feeling, and you put in such hard work at the end, and you go and win the league is great. But I have to say, putting on the Irish jersey and representing your country with such a talented group of players is definitely probably the best moment I've had.
For sure. Gary, really appreciate you coming on the show today. Absolute pleasure to chat to. Best luck for the season ahead.
Yeah, thanks a million, lads. Appreciate it.